Hi, everybody. It's Kathy with Simply Cards by Kathy, and today's Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. And I'm not usually on with you on Wednesdays, but once a month now, I'm going to be showing you some alternate projects to do with either the Stampin' Up! Kits or the Paper Pumpkin kits. So this month, thought I'd start off using the Sweet Sunflowers from Paper Pumpkin. I love that kit. I wish now I had gotten two of them. But I've been playing with it a lot. So I have three projects I want to show you today, and then a fourth one at the end. But we're going to make three, and I'm going to go over how I made them with you. So I'm not going to waste any more time talking because we have a lot to go over and do, and I'm going to switch the camera to my desktop. So bear with me a minute. Okay, hopefully you can see and hear me well. If you're with me live, please leave me a comment. Let me know you're here with me and where you're from. I promise I'll try to acknowledge that while we're doing the projects. Now I'm going to bring in my paper pumpkin box, and I am going to tell you it is a mess. This is what it looks like from the outside, but I have been digging in this for the last week and playing with it. So I just want to show you a little bit of what was in here because what we're going to make is going to look pretty different. If you're not familiar with Paper Pumpkin, it comes with really easy to make instructions. And if you can see here, here are the three projects that you would normally be making with this. And ours are going to look a little different. I wanted to show you it comes with 9 cards, and you get 3 of each design. So one was all like a watercolor green. One is sunflowers and some other flowers in Blackberry Bliss, and we're going to be using this today, both sides. And then some more floral with watercolors. You get these lovely envelopes, which are gorgeous. I don't know that I can send them. I may end up cutting these out and using this like I would designer series paper because they're just gorgeous. And you get 9 of those. You get a bunch of little cutouts that come. You have some little banners for sentiments, another little banner in Blackberry Bliss. You get these beautiful graphics of floral with the honeycomb edges. I will show you a card at that in the end. You get some background of honeycomb out of vellum that are pre-cut for you. And then the gift this month are gold honeycomb backgrounds. And we're going to use a piece of this in one of ours. And then a ton of little punch outs of bumblebees. So I'm going to put this all back in, and we are going to get started with our cards. So let me move this off to the side. Now, the first one we're going to make, the first 2 are going to use this, what would normally be a card. And I just didn't, I thought both sides were beautiful, and I couldn't see just using that in the background. So what I did is these are 8.5 by 5.5, and I cut them right down the middle at 4 1/4. And then the pieces that I'm using are 4 by 5 1/4. So I did cut them as a layer that like you would use for designer series paper. So I'm going to bring in the first card to show you. This is the first one we're going to make, and hopefully you can see that well. I loved the watercolor of the sunflowers, and it reminded me of the stamp set Art Gallery. So I paired this with Art Gallery to make the front of this card and also for the inside. So this is in the annual catalog, and I've pulled the stamps out that we are going to use for this. So we're going to start. So I am going to bring in the supplies for this card. And card base, don't worry about these. All of the measurements and that will be down in a link below by tomorrow morning. And it'll take you over to my website where you'll see all the measurements and the written instructions and supplies that were used. This is a piece of crushed curry. And I pulled the colors from what are in the kit and Blackberry Bliss. So I'm starting off with an 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4.25. And we're going to go ahead and just burnish this with our bone folder. And then I have a layer of 4.125 by 5 3/8 of Blackberry Bliss. And then this is cut to 4 by 5.25. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to adhere this to the Blackberry Bliss and then add that layer to the front of our card. I have to admit, I've had so much fun with this kit. And I love the colors and the design, the watercolor look throughout the envelopes and even the card bases that were provided with this set kit. Okay, so here's our layer and we're going to adhere that. Now I'm using, I have a lot of layers on this card, so I'm using multi-purpose glue specifically to decrease bulk a little bit. I did not use a lot of dimensionals to pop things up on this. So here's our front. Even that alone is beautiful to use as it is. Now for the little flower on the front, I am going to bring in a piece of scrap paper. And again, I said we were using Art Gallery, and I'm using the small stamp from this. And this is a detailed stamp. Because it's a photopolymer stamp, I'm going to bring in my piercing mat. And we're going to stamp on here. Now I'm going to use crushed curry, and I've not been had a lot of luck with coloring. I tried coloring this with my Stampin' Write markers, the yellow and the leaves, and then the Blackberry Bliss for the little flowers. And I didn't have good luck doing that. So what I decided to do was stamp all in the crushed curry. And then I used my Stampin' Write markers to kind of color in the leaves and the small flowers over the crushed curry. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. And I'm going to stamp off lightly. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my flower and give it a good push. Okay. Now, there is a small flower, because this is a two-step stamp. There's a small image that you stamp over this with. And I actually used this on all of these flowers because I wanted to pick up that watercolor look that's in the layer of paper that we're using. So I'm going to show you then what I did is I used Old Olive, and I simply went over the stamped image to color it in. I did the same with this. And then with my leaf, I outlined it. And then colored it in. I let it dry, and then I went back over it. And I'm not going to do the whole image for you. And that is my Golden with his toy, because he's not getting attention, so you're hearing his squeaky toy. So I apologize for that. But if I get up to get it, he will run away, and this will be a game for him. So that's that. And then here's, I'm using Blackberry Bliss, and I just went over these small areas to color them in. And that way I was able to keep the colors and carry them through for the whole front of my card. And again, I'm not going to make you watch me do this whole thing, but I am going to show you what it looked like, because with TV, I can go ahead and do it ahead of time and cut it out. So here is our image that we're going to use for the front of our card. Now I want to go ahead and use some Stampin' Dimensionals for this. So I am going to pop this up here. So let's get those down. And I had cut a half of one earlier for something else, so we're going to use that on the leaf. And let's pop this in here. Now, while we are getting these Stampin' Dimensionals on, I wanted to use some of the baker's twine, but I didn't want it to be white. So what I did is, I have a pair of scissors here that are strictly for sticky, but I don't see them now, so we're going to use what we have. Here they are. So I took my baker's twine and I wanted to pick up the Blackberry Bliss. So I colored it, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute, with originally with a Stampin' Write marker. And I got to tell you, that was truly a mess. So I used, the next time I did it, I used my Stampin' Blends, and that worked much better. So let's go ahead and take these off, and we're going to position this on our card. If you're out there, hi Judy, I'm so glad you're with me. I agree with you. This is one of the prettiest paper pumpkins I think that we've ever gotten, and I absolutely love it. So you're right. I was lucky. That did work great, using the Stampin' Write markers over the ink, and I did go over it twice, so that helped me with that. So we're going to just set this right about here. And then in my envelope, I used one of the tags that they provided us with. And there's some more little bees and things in here. And I used one of the Blackberry Bliss, I guess, stripes, I'm going to call it. And I just glued that to here. And I'm going to take You're a One of a Kind, and I'm going to use the exact same colors ink that were provided in the kit, which were crushed curry and soft suede. But then I added the Blackberry Bliss. Blackberry Bliss is one of my favorite colors. I absolutely love it. And I probably should have stamped this before I glued it on, but let's see what happens. If I need to, we'll grab another. And that looks good. So here's our little tag. And we are going to pop this up with Stampin' Dimensionals too. And I'm going to use two small ones on the ends. Oops. They're sticking to me and not the paper. And we're going to pop these on our card. Then I'm going to show you what I did for the twine. So I'm going to just bring this in a little bit closer here. And I wanted this offset a little bit. So there's that. Let's make sure it's a little bit straighter. There we go. And here's the twine. I took white baker's twine, And I simply took my Blackberry Bliss Stampin' Blends and colored it right before we went on, so I had a chance for it to dry. And I'm going to use this to make a little bow. Now, when I make my bows, I make 2 rabbit ears. That's the best way I know how to describe it. And I simply wrap one around, whoops, lost that there. Wrap one around the other and bring it up through the center. And then I hang on to my, pull it through, and I hang on to my 2 ends here while I work this and get it a little bit tighter. So I just keep kind of playing with it till I get it to the size I want it. And it does take just a little bit to get it to come down. And let's get that knot in the center here a little bit smaller. You just have to figure out which string here to pull to do that. Okay. Now I'm going to leave mine. I want that just a little bit smaller here. So it is just working with it to get it to where you want it. It took me a long time to learn to make the bows. A lot of times I will leave the 2 ends a little bit different sizes just because I like the look of that. And I'm going to trim these down now. And we'll get rid of that. And I'm just going to take a mini glue dot and put that on the back of my bow. And we're going to stick that right here. Now, I want to dress it up with the bumblebees. I did not pop these up. I actually used my glue dots for this. So we're going to go ahead and just pick up some glue dots. And I think I'll stick him right about here. And let's pick up another one and get a glue dot. And let's put him maybe right here. And then the third one I'm going to pop up on the flower. You can see I have a ton of ink on my hands. Let's put him right here. So there's the outside of our card. Now for the inside of the card, I am going to do a partial image here. So let's ink this up again. And I'm going to bring in my mat, my piercing mat, lightly stamp off, and I'm just going to do a partial image of this. And again, want to add that detail from the second stamp. So I'm going to come in here. And then I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Write marker and just going to fill in here for the stems. And we're going to glue this to the inside. I leave my greetings or sentiments on the inside blank almost always. Unless I'm making a card at the time that I know who it's going to go to and what I want it to say. Oops. So once I know who I'm sending it to and for what occasion, I usually will stamp my insides then. On this card, I used a layer of Blackberry Bliss, and the layer was 4 by 5 1/4, and then my white layer was 3 3/4 by 5. So let's adhere this in here. And here's our first card using Art Gallery. So that is one alternate. You could pop a little bumblebee on in here, and there's your envelope, and the first card is done. So let's move on to the second one. We are using for the second one the other half of this card base. So let's bring that in here. And this is the card we're going to make. The card is on Blackberry Bliss. I did not use as many layers on this card. Same size, 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my bone folder. Now, with the kit, you get stamps, and all of mine are mounted. So I don't know how well you're going to see this, but this is the stamp we're going to use. It is the sunflower, and it comes with a center. And then we are also using the thank you that comes with this. And we are going to stay true to our colors. So this is the other half of that card base. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to move these out of the way here. And we're going to adhere this with some multi-purpose glue. I'm quite the green glue person because it allows me to slide things around so that I can get them straight. And even then at times I don't get them straight. So I chose to adhere it this way because I like the way the leaves are kind of moving up. Now, how did I do the sunflower? I used in this card and the next card, I paired it with Celebrate Sunflowers. And again, this one is from the annual catalog. And with this, I chose to use 2 of the dies. Let me pull these out here. And I cut both of these from the Blackberry Bliss. And then I used the stamp from the kit to make my sunflower. And I'm going to show you what I did with that. I'm going to bring my mat in again, and I'm going to move these off to the side. And the sunflower provides you with a beautiful outline. So let's just go ahead and stamp that up. And again, I always try to remember to use my mat because I think with the photopolymer stamps, you get a much better image. And I'm going to bring in my soft suede, and we're going to stamp the center. Now I'm going to show you how to add a little bit of color to this. We are going to use a blender pen, and I'm going to take an old block that I have, and I'm going to add some crushed curry to this block. And I'm just going to do it by dipping in there, and you can see that for me will be a disaster to stay clean. But I'm going to use my blender pen, and I'm going to pick up some of that ink, and I'm just going to go through and add some color. Now, I'm not looking to color every bit of it. I'm going to leave some white there, I just want that little bit of watercolor painted look for it. And you just work around the flower. And as I get towards the end of the petals, I just pull the color through. And I worked my way all the way around the sunflower in coloring. So that's how you can add a lot of color to your background. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me color the whole thing. And I am going to get rid of this, so I'm not wearing it. And then I fussy cut the sunflower out. And this is what it looks like. Oops. So that's my sunflower. And then I took and kind of bent the edges up slightly so that it looked like the end of the petals were coming upward. And then I had, like I said, I had two of these stems from the Celebrate Sunflowers, and I thought I would lay them right along here. So I have a small tip glue bottle that I have filled with Stampin' Up! Glue, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a few dots of glue to this so that we can adhere it to the front of our card. And I think this one I'm going to run right along here. And then I'm going to take this one and do the same. And I'm just going to give it a good press to make sure they adhere. Now my sunflower, I decided to lay it over these, and I actually ended up cutting off the tips of these simply because, whoops, let's come in with these. I didn't want them to pop out under my sunflower. So I cut both tips off. And then my sunflower, I just positioned this way over it and glued it down. I did not pop it up. So let's do that. And I'm just in the center because I want my edges to still come up. So I went with the smallest side down. There we go. And then I just bent my tips, made sure that my tips were kind of coming up towards the sun. And then we took a small little bumblebee, and I did use a mini Stampin' Dimensional for him. And we're going to pop one on there. I'm just going to put them right on the inside of the flower. And I have a couple more here. I'm going to do the same with them. Oops. Okay. Not sure why everything is sticking to my fingers today, but let's put him right up here. And then we're going to take our greeting. This is one of the banners that comes with the set. And this is one of the honeycomb pieces of vellum. So I'm going to take my vellum and here's my silicone mat. And I'm just going to add a few dots of glue to this. Again, using my small. Now, you could put the glue on your silicone mat and use a sponge. a craft sponge and wipe the back of this, but this is so small that I thought I would just, since I had a small tip bottle, I could just do it that way. And I'm just going to lay this here. And then we're going to stamp thank you in Blackberry Bliss. And I'm going to try to not get my head in the way. There we go. And then we'll pop this up with Stampin' Dimensionals. And we're going to put a little bee on here too. So I'm going to stick him on with some glue. I'm just going to pick him up with this, and let's stick him right here. And then we're going to use 2 Stampin' Dimensionals. I hope you're enjoying these alternatives today. If you are enjoying the video, I'd love if you'd give me a thumbs up and help me grow my channel, and hit that subscribe button. Now here's the front. And now we're going to go ahead and do the inside. Now the inside, I think I'm going to stamp on this, "You're a one-of-a-kind friend." It says thank you. You're a one-of-a-kind friend, and I know exactly who I'm going to send this to. So let's go ahead and stamp that. And I'm going to bring in my piercing mat here. Okay, now I want to add a little something down here. So I'm going to go back to that sunflower that we did on the front. And I'm going to bring in my crushed curry. And we're going to stamp off. But we're going to add this to the corner. I hit the camera here. So there's our sunflower. And let's bring in our soft suede again. Now, if you wanted to add some color to the sunflower with the blender pen and the ink, you could do that. But for time's sake, for right now, I'm just going to adhere this to the inside so we can go on to our third card. I love Blackberry Bliss. I just think it's such a rich, warm color, and especially for fall. So here's our second card. And we're going to set this off. And now we're going to do our third card. So let's move some stuff out of the way. And we are using this card base for the third card. And again, I cut it in half, like I did for the last 2. And these colors are going to be a little bit different. For this, I'm using Melon Mambo. Again, the card base is 8.5. I tried to keep everything pretty consistent by 5.5, scored at 4.25. And let's go ahead and burnish this. Now, for the for this card, and where is the card I wanted to show you before we get started? It was right here. There it is. This is the card we're going to make for this one. So with this one, it's going to be landscape again. And I'm going to bring in what we're using in place of Designer Series paper. And we're going to go ahead and adhere this to the front of the card. I love the way this card turned out and the colors. So let's go ahead and just put this down here. Now for this card, I used the cutout that came in the kit for the sunflower. And this matches the sunflower stamp that was provided with the kit. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. And this isn't going to cover perfectly, but it does a really nice job of giving some definition to this cutout. So I just kind of look to see how it's going to fit on here. And it takes just a minute, and I'm going to go down and peel it off. So there's our sunflower outline. And then let's add the center. Okay. Now this one I'm going to pop up right here with Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm pretty generous with my dimensionals just because I like it to know if it's going to go through the mail, that it doesn't flatten out too much. So let's go ahead and put this in here. I'm just going to set that right there. Now, here's one of those honeycomb gold sheets that you got as an extra surprise in the kit. So for this, I'm just going to cut out almost like a little bit of a background here. Almost like a little triangle. And this, you can see the back is white, and I'm going to glue this down right here. Again, using my small glue, the small tip glue, and just being mindful to hit it more towards the edges than I am in the middle to hold it down. But my greeting is going to go over this with Stampin' Dimensionals, so that will also serve to hold it down. And I'm going to put this right in here. Just more as a little bit of a focal point. Now I'm using again one of the banners from the kit, and I am going to use the thank you again for this one. But I'm going to stamp it in, we're going to go with the crushed curry, that deep yellow. And I want to make sure my stamp is cleaned off from the Blackberry Bliss. Okay, so let's ink this up. There's my thank you. And we're going to pop this up with dimensionals. Here we go. Now there were some other cutouts that there's one other cutout that I'm going to show you here that kind of got pushed out of the way, and I didn't get to show it to you because it was hidden under all the supplies here on my desk for this. This was another one of the cutouts that came with the set, and it's pretty fragile because you can see how thin the stems are. So I'm not popping this up, but I am going to put some glue in here and just add it to the front of my card. So let's do that. If I were to pop this up, I'm really concerned that these small little stems would break or tear. So I'm just going to tuck them in under my sunflower and add this here. So here's the front of our card. Now let's do the inside. The inside is blank to write a greeting. But again, I'm going to use this sunflower that came with the kit and stamp off here. And then for the last time, we're going to grab our soft suede and stay with me through to the end because I have one more card. We're not going to make it, but I am going to show it to you. And we'll bring all of our cards we made back in. I'd love if you'd leave me a comment and let me know which one was your favorite. It was very hard for me to pick a favorite, but I had so much fun making all of them. So here's our third card. Now the fourth card that I made, I used the Melon Mambo. And I took one of those die cuts that they gave sent in the kit, one of these, and I cut the honeycomb off all the way around and then just used the what was left for the focal point and center of my card and finished off with one of the banners. And the inside was stamped with the sunflower the same. So let's bring in all of our cards and see which one you like best. So there you are, 4 alternative cards, 3 that we made today using that sunflowers kit. I hope you have as much fun with it as I did, and I hope you enjoyed today's alternative projects. And I'll be back with you next month for some alternative projects with Paper Pumpkin again. So I hope you have a great evening, and I will be back on Friday for Friday Fun at 1. So have a great night, everybody, and see you soon. Thanks, Pat. I'm glad you liked them all, and thank you for joining me.